Hello and welcome to CadoinkStudios. We are here today in the third game in a best of 5 series between PowerRanger and Jack. This is a Moorecraft series, and let's watch the game. Today in the top left-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Protoss hero, PowerRanger. And spawning on the right side, we have the green Terran Jack. And the two players are battling it out today on Tal'Darim Altar. Tal'Darim Altar is one of those GSL maps that Blizzard adopted into the pool. It's a really good map, everyone seems to enjoy it. And it tends to lend itself towards a pretty early expansion from Protoss, either that or foregating, as the map is quite big. There are a lot of expansions, and just large distances, large walking distances for the units, so tends to lead to more macro-oriented games, which is what we probably will see today. Like I said before, this is the third game in a best of 5 series, with Jack taking game number 1 and PowerRanger taking game number 2. If you have not seen those games already, please check them out. They were quite good, and hopefully we'll get a good game today with game number 3. We see PowerRanger gearing up to take this expansion quite early by putting this gateway all the way out here by the choke at his natural, whereas Jack is doing his normal little wall off with his barracks and supply depots. So pretty much the usual coming out of both players. We have this assimilator coming up for PowerRanger per usual, and the refinery coming up for Jack. This refinery is coming up a lot earlier than it was in game number 2. Which is good for Jack. It might lend to having earlier tanks and perhaps more units to be able to deal with PowerRanger's forces. PowerRanger's coming down to the south position to scout. He's going to see that he's not there, and he's going to move on to this right position and finally up to the top right position where Jack actually is. The refinery has finished up for Jack at this time. He needs to send some SCVs over to start mining it. As well as PowerRanger's assimilator is done too, but he has nothing mining that at this current time. We do see the cybernetics core coming down for PowerRanger at this time. We can see that it turned this giant choke into this tiny little into this tinier choke, which will make it very difficult for Jack's Marines and Marauders to come up here. However, if Jack comes around through here and up through this third base and sieges his tanks right here, he should be able to pick off these buildings with relative ease, and he should be able to see that and start thinking about these things now that he has his SCV here. And you can see that he quickly popped over to the right to see an expansion. Did not see one at this time. However, that doesn't mean that he that it won't be coming, as this probe may very well be going down to put an expansion at some point in time. We see this other probe going up to the north position to finally scout out Jack's base. However, now that this wall is complete and these Marines are here, it won't be able to get in, and it won't be able to see what's going on in the Terran player's base. He won't be able to see the second barracks. However, this is something that Jack has been doing for both game number 1 and game number 2. He's been building the second barracks and then this factory, and what's going to happen is he's going to get a tech lab up on this barracks, and then he's going to switch the two of them and start getting his tanks out a little bit earlier, which is quite good. We see the probe building a pylon up in this top position, up in the base that Jack would most normally take as his third, which is quite a good forward pylon. He'll be able to warp units in, and if Jack takes this expansion, he'll be able to attack, and even if he doesn't, he'll be able to send units through here as well as here at the same time, being able to hit Jack from 2 different places. We do see that the Nexus has been put down for PowerRanger. It's a little over halfway done, almost 3/4 of the way done, and that'll give PowerRanger a huge economic boost. However, he doesn't have any units, and he's currently not building any unit producing structures, so he needs to get on the ball as far as that, seeing as he is floating 400 minerals right now. Jack, on the other hand, is getting his tank up. Seems to be a bit supply blocked at this time. Needs to get some supply depots up as quickly as he can. And once again, he's going for this reactor, the second reactor on the second barracks, which is going to allow him to get some Marauders and be able to deal with the stalker pressure that PowerRanger likes to use. We see a pylon back here by Power Rangers 3rd. I think this is a very nice pylon. It's good to have offensive pylons, but it's also good to have defensive pylons, which is kind of what this is. He's saying, like, if Jack comes up from this position, he should be able to warp units in and get him from behind. And if Jack gets up into this area, Power Ranger will be able to come from two different directions once again. Power Rangers very much likes the flanking sort of play, and I think that's very wise by him to do this. We see a Twilight Council coming up. Wow, this is an incredibly early Twilight Council before his third and fourth, or no, excuse me, second and third gateways, so this is quite early. And we can see that his natural has finished, and he is saturating it with some probes at this time and building more probes, as well as getting this third assimilator. Back in Jack's base, we see this tank on the high ground, which is a very nice position. He'll have a little extra range here, and he'll be able to pick off some more units. However, if stalkers come up on this side of the ridge with an observer, they'll be able to pick this off, and these Marines and Marauders won't be able to defend it quite as nicely as he would like. I'd like to see another tank perhaps here, and then maybe here as well. But we do see this natural expansion coming down for Jack at this time here at the 8-minute mark. Pretty good timing for the expansion. It'll be able to give him a little bit of an economic boost, especially since Power Ranger isn't doing that much at this time, seeing as he only has a stalker and an observer. We do, however, see another gateway coming down, as well as a forge, and warp gate has finished. He is turning his gateways into warp gates, and he has his Twilight Council done, and we should be seeing Zealot legs pretty soon, if not Blink, but we do know that Power Ranger prefers the Zealot legs 9 times out of 10. His natural is continuing to be saturated. He's getting that fourth assimilator up, continuing to make probes, which is very nice. We see 2 sentries here. They'll be able to block this with some force fields in case Jack sends an attack. See a second tank out for Jack, as well as expansion is just about finished. And back at home in his base, we see the starport completed with a tech lab on it. I wonder if this is because in game number 2, Power Ranger used some Dark Templar play, and I wonder if he's kind of anticipating this, or if he wants to get some Banshees up and maybe do some sort of Banshee harassment. If not, then maybe it's just a preparation, and he'll be building medevacs out of it. We see back in the Blue Protoss's base another sentry, but still not a lot of units. We have just 3 stalkers and 3 sentries to Jack's 3 tanks, a lot of Marines, and a few Marauders. I don't quite know what Power Ranger is planning to do, but we do see Zealot legs coming out as well as this Dark Shrine. It's very interesting that he's putting up this Dark Shrine again and trying it for a second time. I think it's actually a good decision, because in the first game, we know in the second game, excuse me, we know he used this as not like an in-game tactic, but just as a harassment, which was very nice. But we see by Jack this turret going up. He's saying, no, I do not want Dark Templars in my base, and I do not want Dark Templars attacking me at all. So he's going to get that detection up as soon as he can, and if he does see Dark Templar, then he'll probably throw down a Raven. We see even a turret in his main, as well as perhaps even his expansion. Yes, indeed, we do see one in his expansion. Back in the Blue Protoss player's base, we see a pylon putting at this ramp so he can warp more units in right at the ramp if he needs to. We see that these 2 gateways have not been changed into warp gates quite yet. I don't know why, but he is getting this robo facility, which will allow him to get Marauders, which will allow him to get Immortals as well as Colossi if he so chooses, and they'll be able to deal with the Marauders that Jack has, as well as the tanks. See quite a bit of Zealots here at this Xel'Naga tower. The reasons it's at this tower and not at this tower is because of this flanking thing that Power Ranger is so good at. He will be able to see when the tanks come and when they siege up right here, and then when he sees that the Marines and Marauders are stemming forward, he'll send the Zealots back behind the tanks and pick off the tanks just like he did in game number 2 very nicely. However, I would like to see at least 1 Zealot here at this tower just so he can see when they're coming and maybe do a few warp-ins if possible before that event occurs. We do see a Marine coming out to do some scouting, as well as a few more tanks finishing and another Marauder. We see that this base is very nicely saturated by Jack. He's casted down 4 mules at one time, seems to have forgotten to cast them for a while. This Marine is going to come by and get picked off by these stalkers real quickly. So we won't be able to see much other than the fact that there are stalkers. But we do see 5 more Zealots coming out for Power Ranger, and because of that failed Marine Scout, he is going to do a scan, and he's going to see this cyber core as well as this warp gate. However, the kind of tricky thing is he only sees these 3 sentries, and I think he's going to be quite confused as to where all of his units are. And so we see that he is warping in more units because he's kind of anticipating that attack, that kind of like, oh my goodness, he doesn't have anything, well I should go attack the base right now. But Jack obviously doesn't know about these units right here. We do see a probe coming to look around here. It'd be nice if he took this out and maybe took an expansion. It's interesting that he put this this Dark Shrine back here. If Jack decided to do some sort of attack through here, he would be able to see that, and he might be able to pick it off as well. However, Jack is just sitting at his base right now with a Raven in anticipation of those Dark Templar and quite a few tanks. I really think that Jack should come over here and destroy these rocks and gear up to take an expansion, see if he can find this pylon, pick it off. And here comes an observer by PowerRanger. He's going to see this Raven, and you know what? Jack's going to see this observer as well. We'll see if he reacts to it in any kind of way. He sees 2 starports for Jack, as well as this engineering bay doing some high-tech or high-sec auto-seeking upgrades so that he can get that bigger range on his unit. You see the observer coming in and getting picked off by this turret. Very obnoxious for the blue Protoss player to have that picked off. Didn't get to really see that much. He doesn't see that Jack is gearing up to take another factory, and he's getting a heavy Marine army. Has 2 barracks with reactors, which will be pumping out 4 Marines at a time, which is really quite good. He is sending a small troop up here to destroy this pylon. Kind of wasted a auto turret on it. I don't know why I did this. For this Marine Force picked it off faster than this thing ever would, and it's kind of a waste of energy. It'd be nice if he took this over to PowerRanger's base and dropped a few auto turrets in his mineral line. That'd be quite obnoxious. And we see here this little force is just stopping at this ramp, saying like, I don't want anything coming from my back door, so I'm just going to park them here and make sure. I think this is something that a lot of players don't do well enough. If you have some units here as well as some units here, then you can put like 1 or 2 units on this tower, and when you see units coming, you can start pulling stuff back and get ready for the attack that's coming. We see right now quite a few tanks from Jack. In fact, we see 8 tanks, which is just absolutely crazy. It's wonderful. He really should start thinking about trying to secure this position and push forward, so just to make sure that he has map control. But PowerRanger has quite a few zealots, and these zealots, as we saw before, did quite well against these tanks, especially these ones back here just kind of hiding. But we do see the zealots going over here to take down the destructible rocks and get ready to take an expansion to take his 3rd. This is something that Jack isn't really gearing up to do, but he should be at the 17-minute mark thinking about a 3rd. However, I did not see this. He does have his command center down here in this position. This might be smart, knowing that PowerRanger was kind of thinking about that, taking that. However, there's a warp prism here. Oh my goodness, there's a warp prism, and it might be able to see this expansion. I don't think he can see it at this time. No, it doesn't. But he is going to be able to do drops and stuff. But here is a Raven coming in and dropping in some auto turrets, but these zealots are going to pick it off. But man, not without losing one of their lives. A little bit of a waste of 100 minerals for just a Raven's energy. Probably should have sent some of his other units back so he wouldn't have lost anything at all if possible. But that was a nice little harassment by Jack. It's going to kind of put PowerRanger off guard, be a little on edge, might be a little worried, and we do see a medevac coming in to do some drops. Maybe going to do a drop behind this natural base. I think that would be the best decision at this time. However, there are 2 photon cannons here, and oh man, they're going to run right into these stalkers, and these stalkers are going to see exactly what's going on, and Jack's going to have to retreat like he's doing right now. I think this would be the perfect time for PowerRanger to do a drop in the back of his natural, because I don't think that Jack will be thinking about it, especially with moving this medevac around. However, now that it's home, he'll get back to macroing and thinking about that. We see these zealots coming to rendezvous with these other zealots. We do see a warp in the back of the base. We see a stalker that's going to try to pick off some of these SCVs. He needs to start running them away, maybe even running them to this 3rd to get it saturated now that's finished, but he's going to send his units in, and he's going to be able to pick this off quite nicely. In fact, it'd be in PowerRanger's interest to put these guys in his warp prism the wrong way, but it's just not going to be enough time, and his units go down, and he runs his warp prism away. He's going to be able to see that and hopefully do some harassment on that later. Jack, however, with a huge army, needs to put his SCVs back on the mineral line and gear up to put an attack. He's turtling up really, really hard right now, and I'd like to see him make some sort of push. We see a ton of Vikings right now, maybe anticipation of those Void Rays that PowerRanger likes to use, and the Void Rays that he is getting up at this time. Back in his base with the Stargates, he has 3 already, and 3 just finished, making a total of 6 Void Rays, which is a lot of Void Rays, and if they get charged, it's going to be a lot of damage, especially against these Vikings. But with a good enough Marine force as well as this Thor, he might be able to pick it off just fine. We see a bit of a food discrepancy between the 2 players, 160 and 179. 160 being for PowerRanger and 179 being for Jack. But if we look in the unit tab, this discrepancy gets even bigger as PowerRanger has 55 probes to Jack's only 43 SCVs, meaning that he has a significantly larger army value. And one of these players are going to need to do something eventually, or else Jack's going to hit this 200 army, which he's at 192 right now, and he's going to be able to push and just do some crazy damage. However, we do see a whole mess of Zealots coming in to do an attack, and they're running in with their Zealot legs, and oh my goodness, so many tanks. These Marauders in the front absorbing the damage, and oh my goodness, the Zealots are just getting crushed to pieces, and they won't be able to do anything. And here comes the Zealot force going up to the north, and he's doing a scan in anticipation of Dark Templar that aren't there, and these Zealots are going to try to swoop around and flank the rest of Jack's army, but man, there are just so many Marines and Marauders and tanks. I don't know what they can do, and he is going to have to retreat, which he is seeming to do right now as he's kind of paused. But oh man, he was just waiting to rendezvous with these Void Rays, and here comes some probes as well as a Dark Templar, and they just get taken out real quick. And the Void Rays, oh my goodness, the Void Rays are going into the back of Jack's base to try to do some damage. Look, they're going straight for his mineral line. However, Jack's mineral line is oversaturated as there are only 2 mineral patches back, and oh, they're going to charge on this turret, it seems, in this supply depot. Jack's going to be in a lot of trouble. He's got to send in these guys right now without any upgrades, and we do see one upgrade for the Void Ray, but oh my gosh, this turret as well, these Vikings are going to do just crazy amounts of damage as these Void Rays are not charged up, and oh my gosh, all the Void Rays, just all of them go down but one, and this last one is going to go down. Now he's sending in his Stalkers and Zealots to do the rest of the damage, but oh my gosh, there's just not enough units. Jack has so many units as Thor and all these tanks and Marines and Marauders, as well as these Medivacs. They're just not going to be able to do enough damage, and now we see the food is down to 88 for PowerRanger and 157 for Jack. This is not looking good for PowerRanger. He only has a few Zealots and sentries back at home, and Jack is making a doom push with this huge army. He's going to pass this watchtower, and oh man, there goes his Zealots. Getting ready to go to this Zelnaga tower to try to flank this army, but it's not going to be enough. A flank won't do it. This is a numbers game at this time, and it's not looking good for PowerRanger. We do see him coming up the ramp. He's going to be sieging up his tanks, and these sentries are trying to do what they can, and there's one last Void Ray, but it gets taken out real quick, and here comes the Zealots. They're going to be able to pick off these tanks, but it's just not going to be enough, seeing how many Marines and Marauders are on the field, and the Marines are just doing horrible damage, destroying this gateway as well as the Cybernetics core, and here comes some more Zealots to try to pick up the force, but at this point, there's just too many. PowerRanger 74 food to Jack's 151, and Jack is just continuing to produce units, continuing to produce probes actually at this time, as well as that level 2 upgrade. And here comes 3 more Void Rays to try to pick off these tanks as well as these Marines and this Thor, but they're just not going to be able to do enough damage. And there's the good game by PowerRanger, and yeah, PowerRanger leaves the game. Wow. What a crazy game between PowerRanger and Jack. It was a little slow running through the middle, but there was that push that PowerRanger tried to do that just didn't do enough damage. He wasn't macroing hard enough. He was building too many probes and not enough units, and it cost him in the end as he tried that flank, and his small amount of units were split, and Jack's army was just able to tear him into pieces, and from then he could just doom push into PowerRanger's base. So that's the end of that game. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll either have 1 or 2 more games left, depending on whether Jack wins the next one. If he wins the next one, it will be 3-1, meaning he will win. He'll win the series. However, if he loses, it'll be 2-2, and they'll have 1 more game to play. So we'll have to see what happens in game number 4 of this Moorecraft replay, hosted by CadoinkStudios, between PowerRanger and Jack. I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you guys later.